name is Ted Smith, and we're making a series of videos to go with the Hempology 101 textbook. You can find out more information about our nonprofit group at hempology.ca and check out our newspaper at thecannabisdigest.ca. But we're making a bunch of short videos to cover the various historical and uses of cannabis. And so today's topic is going to be on ancient hash traders. And so I'm going to dive into it here. And in a way, hash, or incense as it was more known in some ways at the time, was very common when used religiously. And so when we think of the ancient uses of these plants, and there are many plants and plant drugs being used at the time. There's certainly opium was being used, ephedra was being used, wine was being used as an intoxicant. But when these various plant drugs, magic mushrooms as well, were being consumed, it was thought that the god or goddess was entering into you because they appeared in the form of this plant or substance. And so knowing the name of this god or goddess, knowing how to consume it properly in order to achieve the maximum effects, were very important pieces of information that would be passed on from one tradition to another. And the use of cannabis was very common because it was very easy to grow. It was grown quite widely from, across the Middle East and into Asia. And certainly Afghanistan, the region, and Iran was very common to use hashish. And so a lot of the use or growing of it, I should say, was even to trade it to Egypt. So these trade routes sending hashish to Egypt that were very valuable. And so empires were set up along these trade routes that would control the trade of these incense and spices. And so the area I'm talking about is generally known as Mesopotamia. It's sort of between the ancient land of India and of Egypt. And Mesopotamia had a number of cultures that really thrived with the use of cannabis, Sumer being the oldest. The Assyrian culture, I think, is one of the more fascinating ones, where they really thrived. They're a very warlike culture, but they also worshipped the cannabis plant a lot. You can see it in almost all of their images, although there's very little known about them, and other than that, because their race was so hated by others that they were pretty much wiped out of the area. So by the time Alexander the Great came through, really about 1,000 years after the Assyrians were gone, nobody knew of them, and they just these ancient old buildings around. But you can see these stylized images of the Tree of Life, and there's an image here for you to look at, where the kings and gods would collect what appears to be resin using sponges and putting it in, collecting it in buckets. And so these ancient gardens in the land of Babylonia as well were very common, and the kings would worship their sacred groves, and it was in these groves that the cannabis plant, as well as many others, would grow. But it's quite certain to most scholars now that the cannabis plant was the most common incense that was being traded throughout Sumeria, Babylonia, all of these various civilizations in Mesopotamia used hashish and traded with it to sell it to Egypt for big bucks. If you want to read more, you can check out hempology.ca. You can buy my book online at our store. We've got the Cannabis Digest and other stuff online to check out. Thank you for watching our video. Have a good day.